Hey, frugal friends, guess what we're doing today? We are actually preparing this berry garden for, planting some of the bare root strawberry or raspberry and blackberry plants we just got yesterday. So, over the course of time recently here, we've been moving all the rock that I told you about in the video where I showed what we were working on. And so yeah, let me show it to you really quick. This is the area that had the rock, and as you can see, all of the rock has been removed, and now we are preparing the area. And I have my lovely assistant helping me. I don't think you've gotten to meet him yet. So, this is my husband, Anthony. He doesn't go by Tony. We call him Ant for short. So, thanks, Ant, for all your help. That was super helpful. Okay, so what we do here is we till the soil, which I don't usually like to till soil unless I have to. It kind of messes with the garden's, soil composition and stuff like that, and it can damage worms and other things that are actually beneficial to the soil and whatnot. So I try not to, but I do know that it's necessary sometimes, especially in this area. It was rock first, and it had like some landscape fabric rock and then some shrubs that were near it, or in the patch. And so basically what happened is the rock just compacted the soil so compact that it was just super heavy, hard, clay soil. So we had to. And then the next thing we do is we, like I said, we add the amendments, and then what step we're on now is actually where we are tilling again to mix all of those amendments into the soil. So this is what that looks like. A lot the same as it did before. Yeah, except just now it has all these amendments mixed in. And then the next step is going to be to rake this all smooth as we can. I mean, there's obviously some pretty good sized clods in there still from where that soil was so compacted. I mean, we're doing the best we can, but I'm not expecting a miracle. And then the next thing, after we get it all raked smooth, is going to be to get planting, the fun part. Okay, I have a new assistant this time, and so we are about to go inside and have some lunch. But before we do that, because we're actually all ready to plant now, already, oh my goodness, I want to talk about what we have to do first. So, bare roots definitely need soaked in some water, or at least, shrubby, or trees, those sorts of things. Bare root strawberries, I don't really deal with this because I don't feel like it's a necessary step, but for the most part, almost all the bare roots we do this step. So, what we want to do is take our bare roots. This is what they look like. I actually got them from Walmart. I was planning on getting them from like a local nursery. However, they had them for way more than I was willing to pay. They had them for like between $16 and $18 each, and it depended on which variety they had, and they really didn't even have that good of a selection. So I went to Walmart last night, and they were there, and they looked good actually. They have some new growth, which is definitely key when it comes to picking bare roots. I won't buy them unless I see some sort of life in them, because very often they sell dead bare roots. They just say they're dormant when they're not. They're actually dead. So I like to make sure that they have some life to them. So I take them out of their package. The next thing we do, oh honey, will you go get the bucket? So we take them out of their package, and then we're going to remove all of this packing material. This is not stuff that we want to plant with the plant themselves. So we are going to take this bucket right here. You can take whatever kind of bucket you want to use. We're going to go ahead and take out all the paper and then all of this kind of mulch stuff, but you have to be really gentle when doing this. It's really important. So I kind of start at the top because usually that's not where the roots are, and then I just gently start breaking apart all this mulchy stuff, this wet mulch stuff. And you can see the roots start to, come along as you're doing it. So again, be very gentle. From my experience, when you're planting bare roots, if you break the plant, like the stem or, any of the new little buds, it's put a lot of its energy and effort into producing that. And so if you break them off, frequently the plant will actually end up dying. So just be really careful. I'm just, kind of like gently kind of massaging at the sides until different parts of the material keep coming off. And then at some point, we're going to stop. There's going to still be some material, but I'm going to go ahead and stop. When it just gets to the point where you can't really break it off easily without, the roots holding onto the material, that's where we want to stop. This one is really losing a lot of its material without much trouble. All right, so that's where I'm gonna stop. The roots, you can see them dangling out of this little ball right here, and then you can see them kind of coming up here. I don't want to break any of these like I mentioned, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick this now. We have a second bucket here. It is a bucket of water, and so we're going to just stick them down. Ooh, that was a good one. Stick them down in the bucket of water with the rest of that packing material, and we're actually going to let them soak. I think the right amount of time to let them soak is somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour. I wouldn't really go over an hour though, because a lot of berry bushes, especially like the ones we're doing here, are susceptible to stuff like root rot. So I definitely would be really careful when it comes to how long you soak them. Some people say you can do it for as long as 2 hours, but again, I think, you know, probably not less than 15, 20 minutes, and then certainly not more than, 2 hours, but somewhere between that half an hour to an hour range is what I find ideal. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these out of their packages and in the buckets, and then we're gonna go eat some lunch, and then it'll be time to plant them. Here's what they look like in their bucket. I seriously cannot believe how cheap these were. They were $5.43 each, which, I mean, at that price I can get 3 bushes for the same price as 1 bush from a specialty nursery. And look how good they look. I mean, look at this one. It's got all sorts of new growth and they look very much alive, so I'm really excited. And then even just this variety specifically, I really like this heritage variety because it actually crops twice. What it does is it puts out its new canes, and then it puts out fruit and flowers on its old canes from last year in sort of like earlier season, and then the new canes actually grow fruit later in the season. So yeah, you basically get 2 crops from the same plant, and yeah, it's more spread out so that you don't end up with tons and tons all at once, although you still do get a fair amount. It's just not super heavy, which we find more helpful to us. That way we don't become overwhelmed with them. So yeah, they have a lot of thorns, so be careful about that, but I like this variety, heritage. And then what's the other variety we got?
We got red latham.
Red latham, which is another nice variety. This one only does 1 cropping, so this one will do 1 early, then this one will be a mid, and then this one will crop again late. So between the 2 varieties, we'll really get a nice continuous harvest out of this. So yeah, again, really excited. Okay, so the berry bushes have been soaking for a while. We're back out here now, and I put the soaker hose thing down so that we can do more like a drip irrigation kind of system for this one. The next thing we're going to do is take our berry bushes and we are going to plant them. So I'm going to really gently just take their stems, and then I just kind of like move them around slightly in the water, and most of the rest of that packing material comes right off, and that's what we want. We want these to look bare root, just like the name would imply. Okay, so on this first one, we've kind of started digging the hole a little bit, and it has some pretty good roots that come out from both directions. So what we want to do is kind of spread those out, and we want to put them next to the water source. Just a little more. All right, there we go. Just make it a little flatter and move on to the next one. Okay, so we got them all planted up. A couple things really quick. Spacing. Proper spacing is really important. However, there's a couple of things you want to keep in mind on this. So when I planted them at our last house, the ones that we had in the front yard, the final berry garden, because I had them in a few different areas around, over time, because I lived there for so long. One thing you want to keep in mind is that if you have alkaline soil like I do, it's going to be harder to keep them alive. Whereas if you have slightly acidic soil where you live, and the conditions are just better for them to grow, it's going to be a whole lot easier for them to grow. So, because we have alkaline soil and it's heavy clay and not a lot of stuff likes that kind of soil condition, I know from experience that these do not spread a ton for us. So our last one, we had 1 raspberry and 4 blackberries. The raspberry grew to be pretty big, and grew a lot of raspberries, but not, not crazy amounts, of course. Let's see, the raspberry grew from where we planted it. It kind of bushed out in either direction. I would say somewhere around 6 to 8 inches in either side. And then the blackberries, when they spread, they only spread like 4 inches in either direction from where they were. So they stayed very small and compact. They did not go crazy, like I said. We didn't end up with them growing all over. Yeah, so I plant them slightly closer together than maybe some people might, because again, ours aren't as happy. They don't spread like crazy because of that alkaline soil. And then another thing is I have to adjust the soil pH. So we did add some acidifying fertilizer, which helps to bring down the soil pH. However, I would like you to note that the best time to actually adjust the soil and to go and dig it all up and rototill and all that like we did is actually the fall before when you plant them. That way it has a chance to kind of resettle down. If you had to add a fertilizer to make it, to where they work better for where you live, you have had a chance to do that, and the fertilizer's had its chance to, do its stuff. Or if you're doing other stuff, if you're doing more natural means other than fertilizer to try to reduce the soil pH, it's had a chance to do that too. Because that happens slowly. Adjusting the soil pH does not happen overnight, so you definitely got to make sure that you're doing it, earlier the better. So there's one thing to consider. Okay, so there you go. Proper spacing, making sure the soil pH is correct, because most berry plants like a soil pH between somewhere in the 6 to 6.8 range or something like that. Whereas we have really alkaline soil, like I said, where we live. The soil pH around here is anywhere from 8 to 9. In some places, even as high as 10, which is extremely alkaline and very hard to get things to grow. Okay, so I guess they're really not that much to look at the moment. Hopefully you can see them there. So there is the first row right there, a couple of them there, and then a couple of them right here and back there. And so this is a spacing of about 2.5 feet. Most people recommend that you put them about 2 to 3 feet apart so that they have a chance to spread. But I already knew that, they're not going to spread a ton. So I put them, kind of like I said, a little bit closer at 2.5 feet apart. But if you wanted, you could even put them a little closer than that. But do keep in mind that they're eventually going to sucker, which means they put up their new little bottom ones. Like you can see on that one, how it's kind of growing up new little ones from the bottom. They're going to do that to spread. And so you want to keep that in mind. That's them. I have all these raspberries here. I have 5 raspberries planted right now and 5 blackberries, and I actually have left a little bit of room over here on this side behind the bucket there so that we can add other varieties as we come across them later. I kind of wanted to try maybe even a yellow variety, but let's see how these go first. And yeah, so this is our budget berry garden we put in. We did all the work ourselves. We bought the bare roots that were the cheapest that we could. They look good, and I'm really excited about it. So the last step after this is going to be to water them and to mulch them. However, I'm unable to show the mulching on the video at the moment because we don't have the mulch. I'll have to buy that tomorrow, but by then, this video will probably be on YouTube. So I would love to hear from you. Do you have a berry garden? When did you plant it? Are you still planning on planting it? And what do you like better? Do you like blackberries or raspberries, or what grows better for you in your area? I would love to know. So anyway, hopefully this video was helpful to you. I'm Frugal Green Girl, and we'll see you next time.